I'm here with Dennis Bullock, also known as Saxy Bullock,
That's right.
great saxophone player and singer. He's played with a lot of great stars, including Prince, James Brown, Kool and the Gang. He's also been a background singer for Teddy Pendergrass, George Duke,
Uh,
Quincy Jones, and he's also performed with some of the horn sections of Michael Jackson. You had a really amazing NDE, but previously you had an afterlife communication with your mother, and she told you about your future life. So let's talk about that.
my mother was the light of my life. She was very warm and caring and loving. So my mother was my life, you know. She bought me my first saxophone. She saved for 3 years to do that. She was everything. But one day later on, when I was older, my mother got sick and then she passed away. And when she died, it was like somebody turned the lights out in my life. I wasn't suicidal, but I didn't care whether I lived or died at that point. I was living in Montreal, Canada at the time. When she passed away, I would go to the neighborhood bar, drink a little, and then come home, go into my room, turn out the light, sit on the side of my bed, and cry myself to sleep. That was my routine for about maybe a week and a half after she passed away. But this one night, I came home straight from the bar, ready to do my routine. And then I came in my room, I turned out the lights and sat on the side of my bed. And I went to untie my sneakers. And when I went to untie my sneakers, I noticed that there was light on the ground. And I said, that can't be. I just turned out the light. I know I just turned out the light. It can't be. Here's the crazy part. When I looked up, the sun that you see in the sky was in my room. And when I looked up and I saw the sun in my room, it was like a wave that covered my body. Like if you're in the ocean and the wave is too big for your body and it covers your whole body, it was like that, except the water was love. And it just covered every part of my body, my whole soul, everything. In this sun, which later I found out to be God, were two stars, one big one and one smaller one. And the smaller one, I felt and could feel that was my mother. And they both floated out to me. First thing I said was, wow, Mom, it's like that over there. They both floated out to me. My mouth is like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And my mother starts to speak to me like I'm talking to you now, except when she would talk to me, it's like the conversation was being shot into me. Like I could feel the conversation in my body, but I could hear her like I hear you talking. And she said, I'm going to tell you a week in the future so you know that this is not an illusion or something fake or you something that you think you imagined. And she said, you're going to get a job next week. Now, I'm a musician, I'm a singer, soul singer, and a saxophone player. But my band, we hadn't worked in about 2 or 3 weeks. It was like kind of a dry spell, you know, not a lot of work. And she said, well, you're going to get a job next week. And she said, there's going to be at this club that you get the job, there's going to be a doorman, a bouncer, we call it. He's going to be a homosexual and he's going to be a psychopath. And she said, do not, whatever you do not get into an argument with him. Or two timelines would happen. Now, this part, when she started to talk about timelines, she started to sound like the Enterprise and Captain Kirk, and Star Trek. She started to sound like that. She said, there's two timelines that's going to happen if you get into an argument with him. She said that one of them, he's going to kill you. And the other timeline, you kill him, but you go to jail for the rest of your life. Now, she said, one of these two timelines will happen if you get into an argument with him. I was so happy to see my mother. I said, Mom, I'll do anything you tell me to do. Anything you say, I'm doing it. Because my mother knew me, I'm not against homosexuals or lesbians you know, whatever is not normal and sexual behavior, or not normal, but whatever sexual behavior you have, I have nothing against it. As long as you know that I'm straight and you know that I don't go that way, and as long as you don't come after me knowing that I'm straight. But she knew me that I was not looking for trouble, but she knew that I could handle trouble if it came my way. But she told me, don't get into an argument with this guy. And then she told me another thing. She said, the girl friend that you have now, because I'd been seeing this girl for about maybe a year and a half or something like that. She said she has three kids you don't know about. And she said she's gonna try to have a fourth kid with you. She's gonna try to trap you, or say she's on the pill, or say something to trap you. She said, be careful about that. And then she took a pause, and then I said, but mom, tell me, who is this other light standing next to you? Because this other light was like 7 foot tall, standing next to her. And then when I asked her who the other light was, this other light, it spoke to me. And it said, I'm an escort. I'm escorting your mother to the earth plane. And I said to it, I said, an escort? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I got a lot of questions for you because my room is lit up like Star Wars. I want to know, why am I here? Who's going to be my wife? How many kids am I going to have? What's the meaning of life? And this, I call it now an angel. This angel quietly said, I'm going to tell you all you asked me, but you won't be allowed to remember only what your mother told you. And it told me all my answers, but I couldn't remember. I only remember what my mother told me. So at the end, my mother, she said, I love you, and I'll always be around you, but you won't realize I'm around you as much as you do tonight. And then they started to slowly go back into the sun that was in my room. And it's like if you put a ice cube in a glass and the ice cube starts to slowly melt. That's how it was. They were slowly going back into the sun, and the sun was slowly fading away. And the light in my room slowly started to dim and go darker and darker. And when it finally got totally dark, tears. The next day, my band called me and they said, hey man, we got a job. Now, I wasn't going to tell my band members what happened the night before because I didn't want them to think, oh man, he's a great singer, great saxophone player, but when his mom died, he lost it, man. He lost his mind. So I said, I'm not going to tell them what happened yesterday. So I said, oh, okay, that's great. That's great. We got a job. Okay. So I hung up the phone. And then I thought, I said, that's strange. My mother said that, and now it's starting to happen. Then I went to this new club, which is like to do a sound check. And what for people who don't know what a sound check is, it's just when the band checks all the sound equipment to make sure it's functioning and working correctly a couple hours before we do the actual show. So we did our sound check. I went to the club. There was two bouncers, two guys at the door. But they didn't say anything to me, and they didn't do anything strange. So I mean, nothing happened. I went into the club. We did our sound check. Sounded great. We left, and then I came back to the club at night for the show. We had two shows to do. So I came into the club. These two bouncers was there. They still didn't say anything to me, and I came in the club. We did our first show. First show went great. The people loved it. Everybody was happy. And I was on break now, talking to my band. I was here and my band was here. Now we're talking, I'm on a break, and then this bouncer walks behind me, and as I'm talking, he grabs my butt. And I'm talking, I'm like, hey, what? and he walks to the corner of the club and just watches me, stares at me. And I told my band, hey guys, did you see that? This guy just grabbed my butt, man. I was very angry. I said, I got to tell this guy something. I got to tell this guy something. So I went over there right away to tell him. And as I was walking towards him in the corner, I said, oh, yeah, Mom, don't forget, don't lose it, man. Don't lose it. Be calm, be calm, be calm. Just go over there and tell him you're not like that and don't touch me no more. So I went over there and I said, hey, man, listen, I want to tell you, I'm not like that. Please don't touch me anymore. And he said, I didn't touch you. You had too many beers. I said, no, you did touch me, and I'm asking you, please don't touch me. I'm not like that. And then he said, why'd you tell your friends? And I said, I told my friends because you touched me. And I'm telling you, please don't touch me. I'm not like that. And then I left because the longer I stayed in front of him, the more the conversation was going towards a fight or a dispute, a major argument. So, so I left. I just told him, please don't touch me. I'm not like that. And I left. I just left him. So we did the second show. It was a great show, but I didn't hang out after. Normally I would, after I do a show, would hang out in the club a little bit, talk with the people. This time I didn't feel comfortable. So I did the show and I left. I walked by him to get out of the club, but he didn't do anything, just looked at me strange. And I left the club. And that was the night. That was the end of that night. Now, the next morning, I got a phone call from my band member, and he said, hey, man, did you hear what happened? I said, no. I mean, I left the club last night. It was okay. Everything was okay. He said, remember that bouncer you told us about that grabbed you? I said, yeah. He said he got into an argument with the club owner, man, and crushed both of his rib cages, and he's now in jail for manslaughter. I said, what? He said, yeah, man, that guy was a crazy psychopath, crazy. And even then, I was tempted, but I didn't tell my band member that my mother had already told me that. And the club owner was a nice guy, really cool people, nice guy, and it really shocked me. And so I hung up the phone and I said, oh my God. Oh my God, everything my mother said is now coming true. And I said, if that's true, oh, my girlfriend, oh, I gotta call her. So I picked up the phone and I called her and she answered the phone, hello. And I said, hello, tell me something. Just have a question for you. Just tell me the truth. It's okay. Do you have three kids? And the phone went silent. And then she said, who told you? And I said, oh no, this can't be. This can't be. This can't be. I know this girl for almost 2 years. I'm going to ask you again. Maybe you didn't hear my question properly. I said, do you have three kids? And she said, yes, I do have three kids, but who told you? And I said, well, if you had told me about you had three kids, it wouldn't have been a problem for me. But I'm going to tell you who told me. My dead mother told me that you had three kids, and we're finished. I wouldn't have a problem with you if you had kids, if you had told me. But for you to hide your own kids, I don't know what else you could be hiding. So we're finished. So we broke up that day and I hung up the phone. And that was my first spiritual encounter, I would say. And that encounter let me know that there was a little bit more to life than what we think, that we normally think it is. Now, what happened after my mother's situation, this was so fantastic and so crazy. After that, I didn't want to tell anybody my experience with my mother, so I tried to go on with normal life, and I was following this guy who was a great singer from the Platters, and he was like a mentor. He was showing me things about singing, and I was singing background vocals for him until one day he introduced me to drugs, and we started doing drugs together. And then at the last show of his life, he just dropped dead. And that was my wake up call. And then I stopped cold turkey. I didn't do any more drugs, but I decided to replace it with a little marijuana. So I did marijuana, once or twice a month as a replacement. And this one day, me and my new girlfriend ran out of marijuana. And I hate to tell everybody, but most musicians, no matter where you are, no matter what country, no matter what city, they all know where to get marijuana. So I picked up the phone because we had ran out of marijuana. I was in Montreal, Canada at this time, and I picked up the phone and called the musician. I said, "Hey, man, I ran out of marijuana. Could you bring me some?" And he says, "Sure, I can bake it in a cake for you." And I said, "Cool, man," because I never had it in a cake before. I only smoked it before. I never had it in a cake. So that'd be cool. Yeah. So he baked it. It was a chocolate cake. So he brought it over to my place, and he left. He didn't tell me how much marijuana he put in that cake, but later I found out it was like tons. And so he left the cake with me and my girlfriend, and he left my apartment. And so I never did ate marijuana in a cake, so I said, I'm gonna cut you a small piece, and I cut me a small piece, and let's see how this is gonna happen. So I'm eating my small piece, she's eating her small piece, and then 10 minutes go by and nothing happens. And I said, you feel anything? She said, no, I don't feel anything. And I said, well, I guess we probably have to eat more because, maybe it was not enough marijuana in the cake, or I don't know. I think we have to eat more. So I cut her half of the cake and she cut me the other half. And we ate the cake, the whole cake. She had half and I had half. And we waited 10 minutes again. Still nothing had happened. And I said, "Do you feel anything?" She said, "No." I said, "You?" I said, "No." I said, "Must be a bad batch. It must not be that great." And we waited another 10 minutes. Then we began to feel something. But it wasn't like getting high. It was more like our bodies were shutting down. I was talking to her and then I would forget to breathe. And then it was difficult for me to move my body. I started to have trouble to move, just to move a easy movement. And my girlfriend said, well, you better call 911 while we still can. I said, yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. And so I went to try to get to the phone and I dialed 911 and the 911 operator answered. And this is the embarrassing part because she said, well, how can I help you? And I said, well, we ate too much marijuana in a cake and I think we're dying. Could you come please save us? So she said, no problem, we'll be right over. Now, what I didn't know was that when you call 911, if it's about a narcotic, they also call the police. So the police and the ambulance was on the way over to my apartment. Now, this was at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay. So it was very, very late in the morning, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And so the cops arrived first and they came into my apartment looking to charge us with something. But there was no evidence anymore because we had ate the whole cake. So there was nothing to charge us with. So they left. And then the ambulance came and they came up and I was sitting on the sofa and I was barely moving. I could barely move. And I was very happy that they had arrived because I knew I didn't have much time. Because my body couldn't move, my heart was trying to beat, and I didn't have much time. And so they came and they took us in separate stretchers, and we lived on the third floor, and there was 2 floors below us with big windows in front of the staircase. It was a spiraling staircase when you go down. And if you can imagine, at 4 o'clock in the morning, lights are flashing, sirens are going, the neighbors are looking through their windows, looking at us like, what happened to them? And we're being carried down into stretchers into an ambulance. So they put us in the ambulance, and we are on our way to the hospital. Now we arrive at the hospital, and here's another strange thing that happened when we arrived at the hospital. As they were wheeling me by the reception at the hospital, another strange thing happened. I saw my dead mother again. This time she was looking through papers at the reception, looking for me. And what she was wearing was my mother was a part of this women's club. And it was about 12 women, and they would play bingo together, games, and they would go on trips together, these 12 women, and they had these special shirts they wear. And she had that special shirt on. And I said, that's as they were wheeling me by the reception, I said, that's strange. There's mom. And they wheeled me by my mother and into a room, and they wheeled my girlfriend into another room. Now I was in a room by myself. They sat me on the bed and they gave me this black drink. I thought it was tar, but later I found out it was charcoal drink. And this charcoal drink, I drank it. I tried to drink it right away. They left me in the room alone. So I tried to drink this charcoal drink right away because I said, "Oh my God, I think I'm gonna live. I think I'm gonna live. Ah, I think I think I might be okay. I might be okay." So I drank this drink. It tastes horrible. Oh my gosh. But I drank it all straight down. And then I relaxed on the bed. And as I relaxed on the side of the bed, I all of a sudden I started to hear my heart in my ear. It was like my heart was in my ear. And it started to beat boom boom, boom boom, boom boom, boom. And when it did the last beat, I popped out of my body as if I was to jump out of this chair. Just jump out. I just popped out. And I said, "Whoa, I'm out." And I was looking at my body, was in the hospital bed, and I was standing watching my body. And then I looked at my hand because my hand had this strange gray, light blue tint all around it, kind of like it was a little bit glowing. And I was looking at my hand, and I said, "I'm out." I'm looking at my body in the bed, and I'm standing next to my body. And then I hear this drop of water in my room, in my hospital room, in the sink, and it's just going drip, drip. And for some odd reason, I don't know why, but when I was out of my body, the curiosity was like at 1,000. I was very curious, and to a soul, a drop of water was like the most amazing thing you could ever see. And when I heard the drop of water, I said, "Oh, a drop of water." And I looked at the water, and the minute I thought about the water, my vision went straight to the water and back. And and I said, I'd like to see, I know, I said I would like to see that water, but I needed to slow it down because it was dripping very fast. And it was like as if I give you, if you hadn't ridden a bicycle in 20 years, and then I give you a bike, you're still going to know how to ride it, AJ, you know? And it was like I was remembering. And I just put my hand, just like this, across the air. And I stopped time. The water froze in midair. And to a soul, that was not a big thing. I mean, when I think about it now, it was amazing for me. But while I was out, it was not a big thing. And then I said, well, I'd like to see that drop of water from every angle. And then I opened my hand like this. And when I did like that, five of me appeared at the sink. One was on the right, one was on the left, one was underneath, one was watching them, one was on the bottom, and I was watching all of them. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, what? Five of me? And I when I closed my hand, they all would suck back up to me into one, just like that. And I said, this is amazing. And I opened my hand again, and then they appeared again. All one left, right, underneath, watching them, another one watching them, and then me watching all of them. And so I kept doing it like a kid. I started, and then this one time I said, I wonder if I open my hand and I do just a little shake, will they all appear and do a little shake? And I opened my hand and I did a little shake like that, and they all appeared and they did a little shake like that, and I burst out laughing. I burst out laughing. And my laugh sounded like I was laughing in the Grand Canyon in America. Ha 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 ha. My laugh went into eternity. Now, after the laugh, I felt all of a sudden someone was watching me. And then I heard a voice. And this voice was talking to me as if how you would talk to a child at a playground. Don't run around the corner too fast, you might fall. It said to me in a very loving, kind, not a order, but very patient voice. It said, if you don't go back now, you might have to stay. And I said, oh, yeah, that's right. My heart, it can't stay stopped like that. It had to be in at least 25 minutes now. And I said, oh, yeah, that's right. Now, I didn't even question who the voice was because I felt automatically that I knew it was God. And so I turned around towards my body. And here's another thing. I didn't want, when I saw my body on the bed, I didn't want to look at the face because I was afraid that my face was going to have this contorted expression on it, some look of death, and I didn't want to scare myself. So I didn't look at my face. And here's another thing that was happening also while I was out of my body. Think of it like if you ever had a pill dissolve, you put a pill in water or and it dissolves. It just dissolves in water. Well, it was like that. I was getting information, but it was expanding. It was like getting bigger and bigger, more and more and more information as I was out of my body. And it was this information was about everything. It was about the earth. It was about souls. It was about heaven. It was about hell. It was about why we come here. It was about God. It was about religion. It was about the Bible. It was about Christ. It was about all kinds of things. And this time, when I looked at my body and I said, I'm going to go back. And I just looked at my body and I just dove into it like you would dive into a pool, a swimming pool. I just dove into it. And when I dove into it, my heart did a double beat, and started to beat normal again. But this time, I was allowed to remember. I was allowed to remember all the information that came to me. And this information was totally opposite of what I believed before this event happened. I mean, totally the opposite. And so, also, um, not only the information was so powerful, also I came back with some abilities, which I discovered by accident. I didn't know I had these abilities, but I had these abilities. So after this incident, um, I went back to normal life. I tried to let's go to be normal again. And me and my band, we went to this place called Mont Roland in Canada. It's up north in Canada. Now, it was a snowstorm that day. We were playing at the daytime, and there was a club that was open in the daytime up north. And it was a snowstorm, but there was nobody in the club. It was only the band and these two waitresses. We had never played at this club before, so it was a new club. So we were sitting there having beers. It was around maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And I called one of the waitresses over and I said, hey, come on over. Give me your left hand. I'm going to tell you your future for fun. It was supposed to be a joke. And I told her, which I thought it was going to be a joke. I told her, I said, your boyfriend is paraplegic. I said, he blames you for his handicap, even though it's not your fault. I said, you gonna meet a guy 3 months from now and you're gonna fall in love with him. And another 3 months, you're gonna marry this guy and live for it and live happily ever after. You know, you're gonna be happy with this person the rest of your life. And I put her hand away and I finished my beer, and I was supposed to be the joke. Now, a year later, we played that same club, and this waitress ran up to me and said, "Do you know that everything you said came true? Was true?" I said, "No way." I said, "Your boyfriend was paraplegic?" She said, "Yes." I said, "He blamed you for his handicap even though it was not your fault?" She said, "Yes." I said, "You met a guy 3 months after and fell in love." Another guy. She said, "Yes." And then I said, "And you got married 3 months after that?" She didn't even say yes. She showed me her wedding ring. And man, when she did that, the bumps went up my arm, man. And I said, "Oh my God, what happened to me? What's happening to me? Am I turning into an alien?" And my band, they heard this story and they said, "What's going on with you, man? You turning into Nostradamus?" And I said, "I don't know what I'm turning into. Um, I don't know how I knew that information. I don't know." And then I said, "Oh man, I was totally, I was just shocked. I was like scared and shocked because I was like, that was not supposed to be." And I got all those details. I said, "That's not supposed to be. I don't even know this woman." I said, "That's not supposed to be." We did another sh show at another place, and we have a following. That's my band. We had a following of people and fans and stuff. And we had some bouncers too that were our friends, you know. And this one bouncer, I had a premonition about. And this premonition was that for this particular weekend, I had it on Thursday, that he should not go out on the weekend, that he should just stay home. Now, this guy is huge, like, Hulk Hogan, wrestling mania type. You have to be insane that you want to pick a fight with this guy. You can just, from the visual alone, you're going to say, "Nah, I think I pass." This guy is huge. And so, but he was a friend of the band. He loved us. He was cool, was nice, cool people. But I had this premonition and it wouldn't let me, it was like a cloud was following me around all the time, telling me, "Tell him not to, don't go out this weekend." And I kept fighting with myself and I said, "Yeah, but if I tell him don't go out this weekend, he's gonna think I'm crazy. Who's gonna mess with him anyway?" You know? I said, "Maybe it's just me, maybe you've been through a lot lately. You died and you have all these strange things. Maybe it's just your feelings are off." So that Friday came. Now he worked at what we call an after hours place. Sometimes they call it after party. And what this is like a club that stays open after the normal clubs close. The normal clubs, they may close at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but this after hours place stayed open until about 9:30, 10 in the morning. Okay. And you could still get drinks and all that stuff. So he worked at that place. And what our band would do, what we would do is after the show, we couldn't go straight home and go to sleep. We had just too much energy. We would go to the after hours place and have a beer, and some of the fans would follow us there and they'd talk about the show. And it was just a nice social gathering. And so this Friday, I went there. I saw him there. He was fine. I started to tell him, but then I said, "Nah, I'm not gonna tell him. He's gonna think I'm crazy. Nobody gonna mess with this guy. Maybe it's just me." So I didn't tell him. And then Saturday came and I didn't go there this time. But then Sunday came and we did our last show on the weekend on Sunday. And then I went to the same place where he normally works, but he wasn't there. And another guy was there, another bouncer was there. He was standing at the door and he had tears rolling down his face. And I said, "What's wrong, man? What's going on? What's wrong?" He said, "You didn't hear?" I said, "No, what happened?" He said, "The other bouncer is dead." I said, "Dead?" I said, "How?" He said, "On Saturday night he met a girl and he took this girl to a hotel, and this girl waited till he fell asleep and took out a butcher knife and started to slash his throat. And by the time he woke up to realize what she was doing, he had lost too much blood, and he passed out. He went unconscious and he died. And I felt so bad when he told me that, man. I felt so bad and I felt so guilty. But later, I asked my soul, I asked myself, I said, would he have listened if I'd have told him? And the answer was no, he wouldn't have listened anyway. And also in my downloads, what I got was that um, we have what they call these exit points in our life. And exit points are points where, let's say you're on the phone and you're supposed to be at work, but you on the telephone talking and you talk an extra 5 or 10 minutes. So, and you're a little bit late now to work, about 10 minutes late. So, because you're late, you missed the accident that would have happened on the road that you traveled to work. Or you missed your flight, your plane, and you missed that flight, but that flight crashes. These are exit points. We have all these exit points in our life. Um, and he had one, and it was not my fault. Um, he wouldn't have listened if you had told him anyway. That's what the answer was. Because I felt so guilty, and I went to his funeral and stuff like that. So I promised myself that I said, if I get a premonition about the President of the United States or anybody, I'm going to tell them. Even if they think I'm crazy, they can think what they want. After that incident, I started to come to grips that I have some kind of gifts from that near-death experience that I can help people with. So I started helping people, and I started reading people's energy and telling them things that are going to help them in their life, and also healings. Also, that's another thing I discovered that I could do is heal people sometimes, and also share the information because I got a lot of information from the other side when I was there that I brought back. So information like, on the other side, there is no right or wrong. There's only perception. There's no right or wrong. There's only perception. This life is a game. It's not as serious as we take it. That was another thing that I noticed when I first came out my body was that I took that life too serious. It's a game. It's actually a game created by other souls for us to experience what we're not and to experience.
When you received this download, you
Yes,
understood a lot of about the Bible, Jesus. Can you dwell into that a little?
it's going to shock a lot of people.
Go
But
ahead.
first thing is that the Bible is not all true. A lot of it was manipulated by the church and by the government at the time. The second thing is that Jesus tried, there's no hierarchy on the other side. That means Jesus is not more closer to God than you are, AJ. Virgin Mary is not more closer to God than you are, AJ. Gabriel, the angel, Michael, archangel, is not more closer to God than you are. There's no hierarchy on the other side. And also, Jesus tried to tell people in the Bible that these works I'll do, but you'll do even greater. Why did he say that? If he was greater than all of them, he's the only son of God. No, we all are sons and daughters of God, all of us. And Jesus is like he would be like he's like a brother on the other side. That's it. He's not a. And the other thing, you can only go through Jesus to get to God. This is wrong, because we are a part of God. And we also are gods with a big G. We can create a whole universe with just a thought. We can have multiple lifetimes at the same time. Okay? So this is all, and also heaven and hell. Here's the other thing about heaven and hell. There's people who die now and they go to hell and they come back. Okay, they're ND, they went to hell and they came back. And what happens with that? Well, first thing is that because you are a god, what you believe in, you are actually creating on the other side. That's how powerful you are. So if you're an atheist and but you have a secret fear that there might be a hell, when you die, you're going to experience that hell that you created. And when that happens, there's only two things that are going to happen. One is that either you're going to realize, hey, it's me who created this place, and you're going to leave, or the other option, which is, oh God, please take me out of here. I'm in hell. Take me out, please. And God is going to come and take you. Okay, I take you out of your own creation and takes you out of your own creation. You go back to life and you think, oh, I'm going to be a better Christian now because I was in hell. You didn't understand your own NDE. Because the first thing is this. God is only love. Second thing is, if God was to create hell, nobody would get out. Nobody. Okay? But God gives you free will. So if you create it for yourself, God just lets you do what you want. Okay? So that's the other thing. And it's the same thing about heaven. People think, oh, um, I'm going to go to heaven and there's not going to be a lot of people there. Well, what happens is they die and they go to this heaven because they believed in it. They're God, they created it. And they realize that it's them who created it because on the other side, all is heaven because it's all created by God. It's all heaven.
I believe these experiences are co-created more than only created by us, by the divinity or source. However, I've interviewed Jews who have met Jesus, atheists who have seen God, but I think that is also a recollection maybe of past life memories.
What I got out of my downloads was this, that first thing, okay, my mother had been dead for 2 weeks, okay, but she still didn't know how to come back to Earth. She needed an escort. And that's what it's telling you is that just because you die doesn't mean automatically you know how everything works. Some people need an adjustment period. And this is the thing. So you in your adjustment period, let's say you're Muslim, you might see Allah. Let's say you're Buddha, you might see Buddha. You might say you're Krishna, you might see Christ. Okay? And here's the other download. Here's something. There is a Christ-like consciousness that exists on the other side. It's just under unconditional love. That's real. But when the Bible says Christ is coming back, the second coming, they're not talking about his physical body. They're talking about the consciousness of Christ, which means the way of thinking. That way of thinking is going to come back to the earth, and that's in 5D. The way of thinking, which was only love. The physical body, no. The thinking, the way of thinking is coming back, yes.
You've also mentioned that there's a need to raise our vibration. Can you talk about that and can you share a practical example?
Sure. I mean, part of my downloads is that we are now in the transition. The earth is a soul. Okay, it agreed to play this game for a few billion years, and those billion years now are up. Around 2012, it decided I don't want to play the 3D game. 3D is duality, which means life feels good, then bad, then good, then bad, then good, then bad. Okay, so she is moving to 5D. And what that means is that everything um, has changed. The whole vibration of the earth has changed. Okay, and for people who don't know about vibrations, there's only two, and there's low. And what is low vibration? Low vibration is fear, hate, judgment, depression, confusion, stress, jealousy, you know, depression. All of this is low vibration. And what does low vibration do exactly? Well, low vibration makes things work difficult if they work at all. And low vibration is very bad for your health. Now, what is high vibration? High vibration. High vibration is smiles, laughing, love, gratitude, forgiveness, nature, animals, babies, creating of any kind, and joy. Now, what does high vibrations do exactly? Well, high vibrations makes things work easier. High vibrations makes any kind of life goals you have to happen quicker. And high vibrations brings more money and more success. And even the doctor will tell you if you laugh more, high vibrations is great for your health. Now, it's not about being perfect. I want to get that clear. I want people to be more like a 3-year-old child. A 3-year-old child will run down the street. Let's say a 3-year-old boy will run down the street really, really fast and then he'll fall. Bow. Then he'll scream. He'll feel that low vibration emotion. But a minute later, that same 3-year-old little boy is going to be laughing. Why? Because he felt that low vibration emotion, but then he let it go. Where adults, they hold on to it for hours, days, weeks, years, decades. So if you have to feel low vibration emotion, feel it, but then let it go. Your emotions are your thermometer to tell you if you're going on low vibrations or high vibrations. You can't say, well, I don't know what vibration I'm on. The question is, how do I feel? If I feel good, I know I'm on high vibrations. If I don't feel so good, then I know I'm on low vibrations. And what I suggest to all my clients is that you write a list of 10 things that automatically make you happy. The first one I'm going to give you, which is nature. If you live near a park, a lake, a tree, you go sit under the tree for 1 hour, your vibration will rise automatically. You don't have to do anything. The other 9 things will be personal to you. Could be your favorite ice cream, could be a funny movie, could be your girlfriend or your boyfriend, could be a cartoon, could be a good book, could be creating, writing, drawing, sewing. Okay? Any number of these things. Okay? But because we all can find ourselves on low vibration. It's not, the crime is not to that you be on low vibration. The crime is that you, if you stay there too long, because the law of attraction is real. It's real on the other side, and it's also real on this side, but just a little bit delayed.
When people listen to music, they can also raise their vibration. It,
Oh, definitely. Music will definitely raise your vibration, um, the player and the listener. Okay, you don't even have to speak the same language. It will communicate with your vibration. And everything is vibration. It's not about being logical now because the whole earth has changed vibration. I don't know if your viewers heard of the Schumann resonance. The
yes.
Schumann resonance is the electrical pulse of the earth. Okay. Normally it's at 7.83, which is the same frequency of the human brain. But if you Google Schumann resonance now, you're going to find that it's at 42 or 100 and plus. And that has never happened in history. What that's doing is changing your DNA because the earth is preparing you for 5D. But not everybody's going to go. Now, there's a thing called timelines. And we're going to go back to what my mother told me when she started to talk like Captain Kirk. Timelines exist, okay? Now, the earth is going to go into 2 timelines. She's getting ready to do a split. And once she does this split, you will not be able to jump vibrations. So when she does this split, whatever vibration you're on at that moment, you will be stuck on that vibration until you leave the game. And this timeline split is going to go into 3D and it's going to go into 5D. Think of it like this, AJ. If you stand in front of a wall, you're going to have your shadow and you're going to have you, right? Now, the shadow will be the earth, the copy of the earth. It won't be the real earth, it'll be the copy. And the real earth will be the 5D. Now, what is 5D going to be like? Amazing. 5D, first thing, you'll have 20% of your soul power in the physical consciousness. What that's going to mean, because the life you're having now is only a small piece of your soul's fingernail you're having powering this life. So imagine 20% of your soul's power in the physical consciousness. You won't need your iPhone anymore. You'll have telepathy. You'll be able to communicate with all things, rocks, plants, water, air. You'll be able to create matter with your thoughts. You'll be able to visit the other side and come back. That's what we're headed towards. Now, the transition, there's going to be energy shifts and energy changes. This is why I tell people you want to be more often on high vibration so you can better navigate this transition. Because this transition is going to turn everything upside down. The earth is rising in vibration. When it goes higher, it's going towards a God vibration. The higher the vibration, the more closer to God. And the more closer to God, that means more truth and more love. And it's showing more sunlight. Literally, it's coming to the planet. So that's why the governments and the politicians, they don't hide anymore. They don't hide. They tell you the bad things right in your face because they can't, because the vibration has risen.
What would you tell someone who's afraid of death, who might be dying, or loved one recently passed?
Life definitely goes on. Second thing, death was so easy when I popped out of my body. That's the first thing I said. I'm out because it felt like I was here, except I felt just a little bit lighter, like I lost 10 pounds or something. That was about it. And I was getting more powers. That was the other thing, and disinformation. But it's very easy. It was like drinking a glass of water. That was death. And as far as people who lost loved ones, first thing you have to understand that um, it's okay if you grieve and you miss them and you love them and you miss that they're not in the physical, but they're there. Think of it like a propeller of a plane. The propeller of a plane is going very, 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 very fast. And to us, it looks like it disappeared. But if you put your finger in that propeller, you're going to know that that propeller is there. It's the same for the soul. The soul is vibrating on such a high level that, and so fast that to us, it looks like they've disappeared. But they are there. They can hear you every time you call a dead person's name or soul. It will appear in front of you, but you don't know it because it's vibrating on such a high level that you can't see it, but they're there. You can talk to them just like I'm talking to you. They hear you just like I'm hearing AJ. Okay? You can ask them to show you signs. They'll show you signs. You can say, well, if you hear me, make a blue butterfly come into my path this week. And sure enough, somebody will either a blue butterfly will come in your path, or somebody will come to you and talk about blue butterflies. Okay, so this is their way to communicate. But you also have to remember, they're on a higher vibration. So if you're grieving and you on a which is a low vibration sadness, it's hard for them to tune into you. That's why they usually come to visit you when you're asleep, because that's when your vibration is relaxed. Because think of it like a radio station. If you're on a classical station, let's say the classical station is the high vibration and the heavy metal is the low. If you are constantly changing the dial, which is your mind, constantly changing the dial, the person, you can't get a radio station. You're going to keep flipping and changing channels, you're not going to get a station. It's the same for them with us. If we are always thinking and moving and we're not relaxed, it's hard for them to tune into us to get a connection. So what they do is they wait till we sleep. That's when our mind does what? It doesn't move the station anymore. And then they can come in and visit and talk with you.
How can people contact you?
My website is Truth Energy Readings with an S.com. And my email is easybullock@hotmail.com. I'm here to help people and also do healings also. I help people with suicides. I help people with problems in life, couples, marriages, children. I read their energy and I tell them what their soul tells me to tell them so they can improve their life. You can book a session for half an hour or you can book a session for 1 hour. You also can book a healing session for 1 hour. I'm doing a retreat, spiritual Egyptian retreat, from October 13th to the 20th in Egypt. There'll be meditation, there'll be yoga, there'll be holotropic breathing, there'll be sightseeing to special energy temples and places all over Egypt. There'll be balloon rides looking over Egypt. Also, I'll be performing there, and I'll be doing energy reading and also Q&A about my life and about my experiences. Half the trip will be 4 days on the land, and the other half of the trip will be 3 days on a boat with your own rooms, 5-star rooms, and you'll be on the Nile River. And the hotel is right in front of the Nile River. And those people who take a session with me get a discount. So I just wanted to repeat that so people know, yes, I'm doing an Egyptian retreat from October 13th to the 20th, 4 days on the land and 3 days on a boat on the Nile River. So go to the website and you can find out all the information. And there's only maybe 4 spots left because it's going fast. So if you're interested in that, I would suggest that you go to my website. My website is truthenergyreadings.com. And my email is easybullock@hotmail.com. That's EASYBULLOCK@hotmail.com. easybullock@hotmail.com.
This has been the A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.